Hold your place for just a moment, because what is quietly moving toward your life has already begun, even if your eyes have not found it yet. There is something unusual surrounding your connection with the one your heart has unknowingly carried. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is hidden in ordinary moments that almost everyone overlooks. But today, that hidden current becomes impossible to ignore. Have you ever felt an unexplained shift? As though someone you've never fully met somehow crossed your thoughts without warning? As if a familiar feeling appeared before the memory itself? Those moments are rarely random. They often arrive before understanding does. And that is why you found this message now, not yesterday, not tomorrow, but exactly when your awareness was ready to notice what has been unfolding beneath the surface. Your soulmate is holding a secret. Not a secret born from deception. A secret born from timing. There is a difference, and that difference changes everything. Stay with this story a little longer, because the next few moments may connect pieces you never realized belonged together. The secret they carry is not simply about their own journey. It reaches beyond them. Quietly, directly, it touches decisions you are making today without even knowing why certain doors have refused to open while others seem to disappear just before your hands could reach them. You have questioned those delays. You wondered if life forgot your name. Yet sometimes what feels like a delay is actually a careful arrangement happening somewhere outside your view. Imagine standing in front of two roads. One looks faster. The other appears empty. Most people choose the obvious path because they believe speed creates destiny. But your story has never followed ordinary timing. Something greater has been guiding both journeys separately, preparing a meeting that requires far more than coincidence. That preparation is connected to the secret your soulmate has been carrying. You may wonder, what kind of secret could possibly affect me without my knowledge? That question deserves an honest answer. It is not about hidden wealth. It is not about a forgotten promise. It is not about someone trying to control your future. The secret is far more personal than that. Your soulmate has recently begun understanding something about themselves, something they once ignored because fear made it easier to remain unchanged. They have reached a realization that quietly transformed the way they see commitment, purpose, and the kind of life they truly want to build. And without realizing it, that realization has already begun influencing your own direction. Notice how certain conversations recently felt different. Notice how your priorities have slowly shifted. Notice how things you once chased no longer carry the same excitement. These changes may have seemed random. They are not. Sometimes two stories begin influencing one another long before two people ever stand face to face. Think about that for a moment. What if two hearts can grow toward each other before they even recognize the connection? What if preparation itself is a form of communication? The world often celebrates visible moments. But the invisible ones create them first. Before a sunrise appears over the horizon, the sky has already been changing for hours. Before a tree reaches into the light, unseen roots have been growing patiently beneath the ground. Before two lives intersect, countless silent adjustments happen where nobody is looking. This is one of those adjustments. And it is happening now. There is another layer you have not considered. Your soulmate has been holding back one important truth. Not because they wish to keep you away, but because they have been protecting something fragile inside themselves. They know that unfinished chapters can become unnecessary burdens when shared too early. So instead of rushing forward, they have been learning, healing, growing stronger without announcing every step. From your perspective, nothing appears to be happening. From theirs, everything is changing. Can you feel the contrast? Silence often looks empty from the outside. Yet silence is frequently where the greatest transformations begin. That is why this season has felt strangely quiet. Not because your future has stopped. Because it has been gathering strength. There are moments when destiny whispers instead of shouting. Most people miss those whispers because they are waiting for something louder. But you are here. Listening. Watching. Becoming aware. And awareness changes everything. Now let this thought settle gently inside your mind. If your soulmate's hidden truth is already shaping the choices they will make tomorrow, could those future choices already be creating invisible pathways that are leading you closer together today? Do not answer too quickly. Some questions deserve to remain open a little longer. Because the answer is larger than it first appears. There is one final piece I want to leave with you before this chapter closes. The secret they carry is approaching a moment where it can no longer remain hidden forever. Every hidden truth reaches a point where remaining silent requires more energy than speaking honestly. That moment is approaching faster than either of you realize. And when it arrives, you will understand why so many ordinary days suddenly begin making extraordinary sense. But that is only the beginning. Because the next part reveals why this hidden truth has started creating unexpected signs around both of your lives, signs that neither of you have fully recognized yet. A quiet thought has been following you, and perhaps you almost dismissed it. Not because it was weak, but because it arrived without explanation. Some feelings refuse to announce themselves. They simply remain, gently returning until you are finally ready to understand them. This is one of those moments. What you heard before was only the edge of the story. Now, the hidden pattern begins to reveal itself. Your soulmate's secret is no longer resting only within their heart. It has begun leaving traces. Tiny ones. Almost invisible. A sentence spoken differently. A decision delayed for reasons nobody else understands. An old habit quietly disappearing. A future being rearranged without anyone realizing why. These are not dramatic events. Yet together they create a picture that is impossible to see until every piece is placed in its proper position. Have you ever completed a puzzle and realized the final piece did not create the picture? It simply revealed what had been there all along. Life often works exactly like that. Your soulmate has been standing at the edge of an important realization. For a long time they believed they needed certainty before moving forward. They searched for guarantees, perfect timing, perfect conditions, perfect confidence. But something unexpected happened. They discovered that waiting for perfect certainty can become another form of standing still. That discovery changed them. Slowly. Quietly. Deep inside. And here is where the connection becomes extraordinary. The moment they started changing from within, your own life began shifting in ways that seemed completely unrelated. Perhaps opportunities appeared that you never expected. Perhaps certain people naturally drifted away. Perhaps routines you held for years suddenly felt too small. At first those moments seemed disconnected. Now they begin forming one continuous story. The hidden secret your soulmate carries is this. They have finally admitted to themselves that the future they truly desire cannot be built by repeating the life they have already outgrown. That confession was never spoken aloud. Yet it changed everything. Think carefully. The greatest turning points in life rarely begin with public announcements. They begin with private honesty. A single quiet sentence spoken only to oneself can redirect an entire lifetime. That is exactly where your soulmate stands today. While others believe they are simply living another ordinary week, inside, an entirely new future has already begun. You may wonder why this affects you so directly. Because two lives connected by destiny often begin preparing at the same time without sharing the same location. Imagine two travelers climbing opposite sides of the same mountain. Neither can see the other. Both believe they are walking alone. Yet every step each one takes brings them closer to the same summit. Neither realizes how near they truly are. That is the season you are living now. You are not walking in circles. You are climbing. And so are they. There is another detail you deserve to hear. Your soulmate has recently chosen silence over explanation. Not because they have nothing to say. Because they are protecting a dream that still feels delicate. Some dreams need sunlight. Others first need quiet. Seeds never apologize for growing beneath the soil before anyone notices them. Neither should they. Nor should you. Sometimes the strongest preparation happens where nobody is watching. Pause for a second and ask yourself this. What if the unanswered questions in your life are not empty spaces? What if they are protected spaces? That single shift in perspective changes how you see every delay. Because delays created by fear feel heavy. Delays created by preparation feel purposeful. Your soulmate has finally begun understanding that difference. And unknowingly, you have started learning it too. This is why your heart has been asking for peace instead of constant proof. Growth has a different language than anxiety. One rushes. The other trusts. One demands immediate answers. The other quietly becomes ready for them. Listen closely. There is something your soulmate has not fully recognized yet. The secret they carry is beginning to shape the people they choose to spend time with. Conversations that once felt comfortable now leave them feeling distant. Places they once enjoyed no longer hold the same meaning. Old expectations are quietly falling away. At first this feels confusing. Soon it becomes freedom. Because every future requires making room before it arrives. You may notice something similar happening in your own world. Do not be surprised. When two paths are preparing to meet, unnecessary weight often disappears from both journeys at nearly the same time. Coincidence struggles to explain patterns like these. Purpose explains them far better. And purpose has been gently working behind the scenes for longer than either of you realizes. Before this chapter ends, let me leave you with one thought that may stay with you long after these words fade. The person who carries a meaningful secret eventually reaches a moment where silence transforms into courage. Not because circumstances become perfect, but because the truth becomes stronger than uncertainty. That moment is approaching. Closer than it appears. If these words have brought even one quiet moment of clarity into your heart, I'd love to hear what stood out to you most. Your thoughts in the comments may encourage someone else walking a similar path. And if this journey has been meaningful so far, staying connected through a subscription means you'll be here as the next chapter unfolds. Because what happens next is unexpected. The hidden secret will encounter someone who unknowingly brings it to the surface, and that single encounter begins changing both of your futures in ways neither of you could have predicted. There is one more layer. And this may be the one that changes how you remember every quiet moment that came before. Imagine looking back one day and realizing that the answers were never absent. They were simply arriving in an order your heart could understand. That is where this story turns. Not with noise. Not with sudden drama. But with a realization so gentle that many people would overlook it, until its meaning becomes impossible to deny. Your soulmate has been carrying this secret for longer than they intended. At first, they believed they were protecting only themselves. But as time passed, they began to understand something unexpected. Every choice they postponed. Every feeling they quietly held. Every truth they delayed expressing. Was also shaping your future. Not through control. Not through fate forcing two lives together. But through preparation. There are seasons when life asks two people to become who they are meant to be before allowing their paths to truly align. This has been one of those seasons. Your soulmate has started noticing signs they cannot explain. A familiar feeling appears in the middle of an ordinary day. A certain place suddenly feels important without reason. A conversation about the future lingers in their mind long after it ends. Even your presence, though they may not fully understand it yet, has begun appearing as an inner sense of peace rather than a face they recognize. That is what surprises them most. They cannot explain why the future suddenly feels brighter. They only know that it does. And when a heart begins moving toward hope without fear pushing it, everything changes. Perhaps you have experienced something similar. Maybe you've caught yourself smiling for no clear reason. Maybe you've felt a strange calm after weeks of uncertainty. Maybe you've stopped chasing answers and started trusting the journey itself. Those moments matter. They are not dramatic enough to become headlines. Yet they quietly become turning points. Listen carefully. The secret your soulmate carries is beginning to feel heavier, not because it is painful, but because it is ready to become truth. There comes a time when every hidden hope asks to be lived instead of imagined. That moment is drawing closer. Picture someone standing at the edge of a sunrise. The darkness has not completely disappeared. Yet the light has already arrived. That is exactly where your soulmate stands. They are no longer who they were. But they have not yet stepped into who they are becoming. Between those two versions of themselves, they are holding one final secret. The secret is this. They no longer fear what the future could become. They fear missing the future they know is possible. There is a profound difference. Fear once kept them still. Now hope is inviting them forward. Hope has become stronger than hesitation. And when that happens, decisions begin changing naturally. Without pressure. Without force. Simply because the heart has found its direction. Now ask yourself one quiet question. What happens when two people begin walking toward the same future without realizing the other has already started moving too? The distance between them begins shrinking every single day. Not because time is rushing. Because intention is growing. Your soulmate's quiet transformation has already influenced the energy they bring into every conversation. People around them have noticed they seem calmer, more thoughtful, more focused. Few understand why. Only they know that something inside has shifted forever. The remarkable part is this: your own growth has been happening alongside theirs. You have learned lessons that once felt impossible. You have become stronger in places where you once felt uncertain. You have started valuing peace over endless searching. None of this happened by accident. Growth often happens in parallel. Two lives can mature separately while moving toward the same destination. That is why this connection feels different. It has never been about rushing. It has always been about readiness. And readiness cannot be borrowed. It must be lived. Before this chapter comes to its close, remember these words. Never mistake silence for absence. Never mistake delay for denial. Never mistake unseen progress for no progress. Some of life's greatest stories are written quietly long before anyone celebrates them publicly. Your story is no exception. The secret your soulmate has been holding is no longer something that will remain hidden forever. Every day, it becomes a little more difficult to keep inside. Every sunrise brings them one step closer to choosing honesty over hesitation. And when that day arrives, you may look back on this very moment and realize nothing was ever standing still. Everything was moving, just beneath the surface. And in the next chapter, something completely unexpected enters the picture. A conversation neither of you planned, a small moment that seems ordinary at first, yet becomes the beginning of a brand new direction that neither heart will ever forget. A single ordinary moment, that is all it takes. Not a grand announcement. Not a perfect plan. Not a dramatic sign written across the sky. Sometimes an entire future begins with one quiet conversation that almost never happened. The kind of conversation that could have been delayed by 5 minutes, postponed until tomorrow. Or forgotten completely. Yet somehow, it arrives at exactly the right time. That moment is approaching your soulmate. And they can feel it. Not with certainty. Not with complete understanding. But with an inner awareness that refuses to disappear. The secret they have carried for so long has reached a crossroads. Keeping it hidden once felt like wisdom. Now it feels like standing still. There is a beautiful difference between waiting because you are growing, and waiting because you are afraid to move. For a long time, your soulmate could not tell those two things apart. Today, they can. That realization is quietly transforming everything. Imagine standing before a door that has always been locked. For years, you believed someone else held the key. Then one morning, you discover the key has been in your own hands the entire time. The door did not change. You did. That is exactly what has happened inside your soulmate's heart. The courage they believed they were searching for was never somewhere outside them. It was growing silently through every challenge, every unanswered question, every season that taught patience instead of certainty. And because they have changed, the choices they make next will naturally change as well. This is why the secret affects you so directly. Every meaningful decision creates a ripple. Not only in one life, but in every life connected to it. Your soulmate has begun making choices that align with the future they truly want. Without realizing it, those choices are clearing obstacles that neither of you could see before. What once felt complicated begins becoming simple. What once seemed impossible starts looking surprisingly close. Not because the world suddenly became different. Because perspective did. Perspective changes direction. Direction changes destiny. There is something else you should hear. Your soulmate has stopped asking, "What if things never work out?" A new question has quietly replaced it. "What if I am closer than I think?" That single question carries a completely different energy. One is built on fear. The other is built on possibility. And possibility has extraordinary power. It encourages movement. It creates hope. It reminds the heart that tomorrow does not have to repeat yesterday. Perhaps that same question has already begun forming inside you. Perhaps you have noticed yourself becoming more open to unexpected opportunities. More willing to trust the timing of your own journey. If so, do not ignore that feeling. Growth often arrives so gently that we only recognize it after looking back. Your soulmate is beginning to understand that love is not about finding perfection. It is about finding someone whose presence inspires the most honest version of yourself. That understanding has become the secret's greatest gift. No longer are they trying to become someone else. They are becoming more completely themselves. Ironically, that is exactly what brings two genuine paths closer together. There is no need to pretend. No need to chase an impossible image. No need to force what is meant to unfold naturally. Truth has a quiet confidence. It never needs to compete for attention. It simply remains. And eventually, everything false falls away. Before this chapter reaches its final words, let your heart rest with this thought. Some journeys are measured in distance. Others are measured in understanding. Yours has always belonged to the second kind. Every lesson you have lived. Every challenge you have overcome. Every quiet moment that made you stronger. Has been preparing you for connections built on authenticity instead of illusion. That preparation is worth more than rushing toward something unfinished. If this message has stayed with you today, I'd be grateful to hear your thoughts below. Sometimes one shared reflection becomes the encouragement another person has been searching for. And if these journeys continue to bring you peace and perspective, subscribing simply means we'll continue exploring the next chapters together. Now the hidden secret is no longer only changing your soulmate. It is beginning to influence the world around both of you. People who once played certain roles may step aside naturally. Unexpected opportunities may appear where nothing seemed possible before. And in the final chapter, you will discover why the secret your soulmate carried was never meant to separate your paths. It was quietly preparing both of you to recognize each other when the right moment finally arrives. The final piece has been waiting patiently. Not because it wished to remain hidden forever, but because some truths only reveal their full meaning after every earlier chapter has settled into place. If this message has stayed with you until now, then you have already sensed something important. This was never just a story about a secret. It was a story about becoming ready for the truth behind it. Now, the secret can finally be understood. Your soulmate was never holding something that was meant to keep you in darkness. They were holding a version of themselves that was still unfinished. That is why every delay carried purpose. That is why every quiet season had value. That is why nothing truly meaningful ever felt rushed. The secret was not a sentence. It was a transformation. And transformations are rarely visible while they are happening. Think about the changing of the seasons. No one watches a single leaf and says, "This is the exact second everything changed." The change happens gradually. Day after day. Until one morning, the entire landscape looks different. That is exactly what has happened inside your soulmate. One small realization became another. One courageous decision led to the next. One peaceful moment replaced an old fear. Without noticing it themselves, they became someone capable of creating the future they once believed existed only in imagination. And while this was happening, you were changing too. Perhaps your patience became stronger. Perhaps your confidence grew quietly. Perhaps you stopped measuring your worth by how quickly life answered your questions. Those changes were preparing you just as surely as theirs were preparing them. Now look back at everything that once confused you. The unexpected pauses. The unanswered questions. The opportunities that disappeared before they reached you. The moments that made no sense at all. Imagine seeing them not as obstacles, but as gentle redirections. Sometimes life does not remove something to leave us empty. Sometimes it removes something because it already sees what we cannot yet see. That perspective changes everything. The secret your soulmate carried has been shaping both journeys with remarkable precision. Not through force. Not through impossible coincidences. But through quiet growth that happened one ordinary day at a time. That is why this connection feels deeper than excitement alone. It has been built on character. On patience. On becoming. Those things cannot be rushed. And because they cannot be rushed, they become strong enough to last. There is one final image I want to leave in your heart. Imagine two rivers flowing from completely different places. For years they travel through separate valleys. They pass different landscapes. They overcome different obstacles. They appear to have nothing in common. Yet neither river realizes that every turn has been leading toward the same meeting point. When they finally join, it feels sudden. But the journey toward that meeting began long before either river could see the other. Perhaps your story is more like that than you ever imagined. Perhaps what looked like separate lives were actually parallel preparations. Perhaps every lesson carried hidden meaning. Perhaps every quiet season had unseen purpose. And perhaps the secret that affected you so directly was never about hiding love. It was about protecting growth until both hearts were ready to recognize its value. As this journey comes to its close, carry this thought with you. Do not fear the chapters you cannot yet read. Do not lose hope because every answer has not arrived. Life often writes its most beautiful endings by first creating meaningful beginnings that nobody fully understands. Trust your own growth. Value your own peace. Continue becoming the person only you can become. Because genuine connections are not sustained by perfect timing alone. They are sustained by two people who have learned how to walk forward with honesty, kindness, resilience, and quiet confidence. One day, when you look back, you may smile at how many pieces were already moving into place while you believed nothing was happening at all. The secret is no longer simply your soulmates. It has become your reminder that unseen progress is still progress, that silent growth is still growth. And that hope becomes strongest when it is rooted in truth rather than hurry. Thank you for sharing these moments with me. If this message brought you even a little peace or gave you a new way of seeing your own journey, let that feeling stay with you today. And remember this. The future rarely arrives with loud footsteps. Sometimes it arrives as a quiet certainty inside your heart. Long before the world is able to see it.